everyone, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome to my channel. All right, you guys, it's Wednesday morning, which means it's time for our recap of Teen Moms OG's latest episode. Okay, so I've been covering this season mostly because we have been interested in following the storyline of Amber Portwood, being that we knew that going into the season there was going to be a lot of misinformation coming from MTV because the storyline was going to be basically that Amber was the, perpetual victim here, and that, everything related to Andrew was going to be a big fat mess. Okay? So what we're seeing in this episode is a lot of, I don't even know, how do you say it? It's a mix. So in this episode, it's called Saying Goodbye or Goodbye for Now. And we actually say goodbye to Angie. And Angie is Mackenzie's mother after a long battle with health-related issues. So it's going to be a mix of I don't really know what's going on with this episode and then other very serious moments. So if you are of the sensitive nature, make sure you grab your tissues. But the episode actually starts out with Caitlin and Tyler, and they are actually sitting in their kitchen talking about their futures. Whoa, they're actually talking about their futures. You mean getting a real job? Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah. Seriously. Remember how they were all going to go back to school a million years ago, and then Tyler was going to be a psychologist and she was going to be one, and then they got into school and it was too hard, and you know how his mom Kim is always get a real job, what are you going to do after the show's over, Well, apparently now Caitlin's thinking about that, and she's decided that maybe she wants to be a vet tech, and part of that would be having to find a program. Now, she says that there's not a lot of programs in the area, and she might have to do it online, which might not be totally feasible because some aspects of a vet tech require actual clinical hands-on training, and I would guess some actual interning, because basically a vet tech is a nurse for animals. And they sort of talk about, what do you want to do? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? And Tyler's I don't know what I'm going to be, 40 by then? And she's yeah, and Carly will be 20. Maybe Carly will actually have a kid by then. We could be grandparents in 10 years. And I'm thinking, well, it could feasibly happen. Maybe it won't. But, her mom and dad were probably grandparents by the time they were in their 30s. I have no idea. But they would be 39 at that point? That would be crazy to think about being a grandparent at 39. Can you imagine? I know a lot of people out there are, but wow. That's not usually the time that you think of being one, right? No. Some people are still having kids at 39. A lot of people are. Okay, so they talk about all of that kind of stuff, and then we get back to Amber. So Amber, naturally, the one thing that you would do, Amber, if you are going through an upheaval in your life and have a lot to take care of, you've got all kinds of classes to do, you have to take care of your requirements related to your court case, you have this ongoing custody case. She says that everything with the custody case has come to an agreement, and everyone has agreed about what's going on. She's going to see James 3 days a week, and she's just focusing on her son and her daughter. Except she's seen someone online. So, Amby, how are you actually making your children a priority if you are focusing on your love life? And she's everyone is okay with it. They have to be okay with me talking to someone. If I get into a new relationship, everyone has to support me. And then she tells David, her producer, because she literally has no friends that want to film with her, that she is talking to someone online. Gross. Amber, seriously gross. Could you spend 5 minutes actually taking care of yourself? All right. Now, Andrew shows up again in this episode, and another producer sits down with him, and they ask Andrew, hey, how are you doing? And he's just life as a single father is pretty tough. He insists that he has zero interest in dating. He has no interest in a relationship because, honestly, he needs to get his life together. He needs to take care of James. And he says that, the outcome of custody long-term is he would really like to move back to California because that's where he's from. He put his career on hold in order to move forward with Amber. And given the fact that, things didn't work out and all of his job opportunities would be in California, and as that's where his family is, that's where he would like to go. And he said that it would be in his best interest. Okay. Now, on to Mackenzie. She's actually sitting at lunch with her mother, Angie, and they're talking about how Angie's been feeling. And Angie says that she goes to the doctor, and the doctor let her know that it wasn't very good news, that her liver and her bones, and she's been in a lot of pain, and she can't run, and she can barely walk. And then Mackenzie says that, she hasn't really asked her mom very much about how she's doing because she's been too afraid to know because, they had given her 6 months and it's around that time frame. And then she said, and then I see you going ziplining. And she shows a photo and a video of Angie ziplining. And Angie basically says, when is the next time in the world that I'm going to be able to zipline? And she wants to make the most of it. And she said the biggest thing is that she's not really ready to go because she doesn't want to leave her father. She wants to be there for Christmas. And she doesn't want to leave her husband with a house payment. And so that gets Mackenzie thinking, and then we cut to Cory and Taylor. So they are actually talking about going to the challenge. They're with someone, I can't remember who, and they're basically saying, like, Cory, don't come back soon, don't come home early, make sure you stick it out, like, be a different person, because the last time Cory was on there, he was, like, hooking up with people, getting into arguments, getting into fights. And they're saying, like, don't be that person. Don't come back in 2 weeks. Like, literally stay there, be there as long as possible. And he's like, yeah, my dad said that, like, for 2 months, for $1 million, you can control your temper. And I was like, yeah, do that. Okay. Then we go to Cheyenne talking to her sister. She and Matt broke up, and apparently they were trying to work through their differences, but they kept fighting, and they'd have a good day, then they'd have a bad day. And she said she just really couldn't fix things, and she doesn't want that to be around Ryder. Her sister asks if Ryder actually noticed that Matt was gone, and she says no. And she did say that, Matt showing up at her house, moving here with really out any plans to, do anything. He didn't have an apartment and wanted to live with her. It was really sort of like made her feel uncomfortable and didn't set the right tone. All right, then back over to Macy and Ryan. Macy is talking to Taylor and says that she's still concerned about Ryan's sobriety, but as long as Bentley sees Ryan when he's with Jen and Larry, she knows that he will be safe, so she's fine with that. But she says that in her opinion, he is not sober because he did not look okay, and basically, she hopes she's wrong. And Taylor says, it's 1 step forward, 2 steps back. And she's like, that's always how it is with this kind of situation, but everything will be fine, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So, then they are, yeah, that's it. Sorry, I got distracted. I thought Ryan was in that scene, but he wasn't. I was just making sure. So basically, they're like armchair quarterbacking or armchair diagnosing Ryan. And at this point, it's unknown if he has any relapses. I will say that in this episode, Ryan looked okay. I didn't personally see any issues. And I will say that more than anything, Ryan seems to be a lot more engaged with Bentley and a lot more interested in Bentley and a lot more interested in being a father. And so that's a big difference this season, in my opinion. Okay, now back to Cate. Cate goes to the vet. And of course, Cate, when things get tough, she gets really like, oh, I can't do this. And she gives up. So obviously she goes to the vet, and the vet tech is like, well, she's taking her dog to get checked. And she's like, so how did you get into vet school? And of course the vet tech is all mic'd up, and she's going to tell her about it. It's almost like it was planned. Okay, so the vet tech basically tells her that the program is super intense. They have to learn how to do a lot of different things, like draw blood. They learn how to, they have to go through and actually dissect animals. They have to put animals down. They have to learn anatomy, all the breeds, all of the, there's a lot of math, a lot of science. She said it's a lot of work, but it's also a very demanding program because of how much you have to learn in order to take care of these animals. And I guess that would be no different than being a nurse. I mean, it's a nursing program basically for animals. So they have to learn all the ins and outs. She's like, you have to learn all the pharmacology. You have to learn basically everything. And she said the biggest thing is that when she went through the program, she was not married, she didn't have kids, and that would be the biggest difference for her because, she would have to balance that. And Kate's just sort of sitting there like, oh, whoa, you mean so it's not easy? Ooh, so I'm done. I'm out. Because Kate's the kind of person that always gives up on things if she thinks it's going to be too hard. And I really feel sorry for her because I'm sure she's a very smart person, but I feel like she really lacks self-confidence when it comes to this stuff. And it makes me kind of sad when I think about that. Okay, now back over to Mackenzie. Her sister comes over and they start talking about Angie's cancer and how stressed out she is. And Mackenzie actually suggests that they set up a GoFundMe. And so what they do is they set up a GoFundMe so that her mom can, they can help pay off her house. And her sister was saying that like her mom was super sick the other day and was like not feeling very good, but had to call in sick and couldn't go to work. And her sister was like, listen, like the last thing you need to be doing is working. Think about that. Man, Angie, she was working until the very end. That woman was like tenacious marathon runner. She was like the Energizer Bunny. I can't imagine like having that amount of energy and then still wanting to work when you feel that sick and then feeling guilty. Can you imagine? Angie. So they basically, her sister reminds them that like when they first got diagnosed 2 years ago, it wasn't looking very good. And so the fact that her mom has really hung on for almost 2 years, it's a blessing, and they've had a lot more time. And it's just not fair that any family has to go through this. Okay, back to Cheyenne. They are talking about how Cory is going to FaceTime with Taylor. He's gonna, Cheyenne and Cory are talking about how she's leaving, how he's leaving for a couple months, and Cheyenne's like asking him if he's going to be okay, and they start talking about how much, Ryder's going to grow up in the next couple months, and then, naturally he's like, so what's going on with you, Shy? This felt like the most staged part. This was their scene. Like Leah Messer on Instagram last night was like, Jeremy and I are doing our scene. And after I saw that, now everything I saw on the show, I was like, wow, they're doing a scene. Like these conversations are never spontaneous. Anyways, he's like, so what's going on with you and Matt? And she's like, well, we broke up. And he's like, whoa, you can't just say that to me just now. It was really bad acting. He says that he saw it coming, that she didn't seem very happy with him. And of course, Cory can never let Cheyenne finish a sentence, and he has to make it all about himself. And she basically says she's going to be okay. She's going to focus on starting her event planning company, on her nonprofit, and just take care of Ryder, and everything will be fine. All right, so now back to Amber. So Amber talks to David about how she is going to take the next step, and she wants to meet this Dimitri guy in person. And so David comes in, and he's just like, so who is this guy that you're talking to? And she's like, well, I met him on Instagram. Didn't you meet Matt online? How's your track record for meeting guys online, guy? She tells him that he's super chill, and he was different than the other guys that were coming at her because all the other guys were sending her D pics. Oh, I see. So that's what you have in common, is that he was more polite and didn't send D pics, and he's from Belgium and he has 2 kids. How's this going to work? How's this going to work, Amber? She says he's 39. He's very handsome. She doesn't say anything about like what he's like or what he does or anything like that. And she's like, I opened up to him a lot, and we decided that we need to meet. And the guy's like, David's like, Amber, are you going to do anything differently? Like, seriously. And she's like, I don't know that I'm going to do anything normal. Like, seriously, what do you expect? Do you expect me actually to change? I mean, that's kind of what she was saying. Like, seriously, Amber, you have you just settled your court case and your custody case, and now the natural next thing is to like literally fly a strange man to the United States to stay with you? What? For 3 months? You've never even met him. What if things go bad? Does this girl have any boundaries? Does she have any, like, is there anything upstairs that says, hey, Amber, make a better choice? She literally admits she's not going to do anything different. And she's like, I'm just going to go do me. Yeah, you've been doing you for 10 years, Amber. No doubt. Like, that's why you're in the situation that you're in. All right. Back to Macy, which ends up being Ryan and his family. They talk about taking Bentley ice skating. And they go to the ice skating place with Bentley. And Ryan and Mackenzie watch. And they end up taking him home, and like Macy gets like Jen drops him off at Macy's house, and they're just like, take care of your mom, have fun, and it's just like a very polite thing. And Macy says that she's really glad that she has a good relationship with them, and she's grateful for that. Ryan and Mackenzie then are back at their house, and they're talking about like, Ryan's sort of upset. She's like, well, did you enjoy ice skating? He's like, it's whatever. I mean, it's like my mom makes the plans, and everything related to Bentley is dictated by my mom. And he's like, and I never get to ask Bentley to do much of anything because I can't discipline him, because if I tell him no, or if I tell him not to do something, it's like my mom feels like she'll swoop in and like interfere. And he's like, and I'm just tired of all the disrespect. He jumps on the couches, he's throwing balls, and he's doing all this stuff. And it's like, if I can't like actually be a parent because my mom is afraid to see him, I don't even know what to do. It's just disrespectful. Like, we need to teach him boundaries. Yes, you do. These are good things. Wow. That's like the most mature thing I've ever heard Ryan say. And I don't think that Jen does that kind of stuff because she's, in my opinion, tries to keep the peace and doesn't want to rock the boat. Okay. Now, over to Mackenzie. Mackenzie's mom ends up fainting at home and she's rushed to the hospital, and they end up starting the GoFundMe. She has this really sweet, oh God. She has to tell Gannon, and Gannon is like super, super close to Angie, and he has to tell her like, hey, we're going to go see your grandma, and she's really, really sick, and she's not going to be leaving the hospital. And he's like, is she going to be coming for Christmas? Is Papa sad, like Grandpa? And, is Papa crying? And so Josh goes and gets the kids. They bring them all to the hospital. They go in, they come out, and it's just very emotional. Everyone looks really somber. Okay, then back to Cate. Cate says that it's been, almost 10 years since she's been in school, and after learning about everything that happened that's required of the vet tech, she just thinks it's way too demanding, and, it has so much math and science, so she might not want to do that. And Tyler's just like, I think you're just afraid to fail. Like, you hear it and you think it might be hard, and then you just give up. And I'm like, thank you, Tyler, thank you. Like, Cate, if you never try, you'll never know. But again, she feels so like she can't do anything. And so before she has an idea, and then she finds out it's too hard, so she doesn't want to do it. And then she's like, well, what else can I do? Can I just be a receptionist? She basically says that it's not that she doesn't want to fail. It's like, what if she tries it and she doesn't like it, and then she lets everyone down? All of this is anxiety. And she actually admits that maybe this means she needs to go back to therapy, which I agree. Like, if you're giving up on something before you ever try, you don't even know. And like, constantly telling yourself that you can't do something isn't a good, that says that like you're lacking confidence. And I might be critical of what these girls do, but like, you should at least have some self-confidence, and maybe you should go back to therapy, Caitlin. I agree. So she says that, she would love to rescue chihuahuas. She could have 500 chihuahuas. And, Tyler's like, the thing about life is you have to find something that you're passionate about, and you got to do it. All right. So then they joke about having 1 million chihuahuas in bed with them and blah, blah, blah. All right, then Cory, back at home, they are packing. Taylor sits on the suitcase as he's packing, and he makes this really snide comment like, ha, being pregnant comes in handy, babe. Like, she's gained weight. She's barely showing, by the way. Oh, I hate Cory. Why do you always have to like, Taylor wasn't fat, Cory. Like, oh, so she's gained a little pregnancy weight, so it's pregnant comes in handy because now you can like close it and I can zip it around you. Ugh. I hate Cory. Taylor takes him to the airport. They start crying. Everyone's crying. Ryder's crying. Then she takes him, after she drops him off, she basically, like, Cory's like, I'll FaceTime you. And Taylor then brings Ryder back over to Shy's house, and they talk about how, it was really emotional. Taylor tells her that Cory cried. And she said, as much as I miss him, I don't want him to come back, because if he comes back in a couple weeks, that means he didn't win. Okay. Back to Amber. Now she says she wants to do things differently with Dimitri. So how is she going to do things differently with Dimitri? Oh, okay. So over to Gary's house. Gary says that she's met someone new. And apparently they both have kids. And Christina raises some red flags. Like, well, there's a language barrier. And how's it going to work if she has 2 kids in the United States and he has 2 kids in Belgium? Because I guess he's like got a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old. And like, how would that even work? And like, what happens if Leah doesn't like him? And, she said that Leah has talked to her about it and she just wants her mom to be happy. But apparently Amber told Leah that if mommy didn't click with him, she would leave. And so basically she's going to make sure that Leah likes Dimitri, which, like, what does that have to do with it? Like, this guy literally lives in Belgium, Amber. He lives in Belgium. Okay. So he's like, well, Gary's like, well, the only language they need to speak is love. And he says, they want to take things slow. So how is she going to take things slow? Well, she's going to have him come for 3 months. Yeah, 3 months. So she calls Dimitri and she's like, oh, you're so handsome. And he's like, you're cute. And he's like, I feel comfy. And he's like, comfy? And you can literally tell that there's like a massive language barrier here. I mean, it's decent, but you can tell that his English skills are limited. And he's literally coming for a visit for 3 months. 3 months. Wouldn't an appropriate length of time to visit someone be like a couple weeks? Why would you get a visitor visa for 3 months? Why? When you're first meeting someone. That's a lot of pressure. 3 months. But with Amber, you know, she meets someone and they're already like practically married. So maybe that's like natural for her. And somehow she's doing things differently. So she's bringing a foreign man into her home. He's going to stay with her for 3 months. What? How is she putting herself forward? And how is she putting like the best interests of her kids in mind if she's not doing anything to, she's making so many, oh my God. Red flags, so many red flags. He reached out to her on Instagram. I can't with this woman. She doesn't care about her kids. She doesn't care about anything but herself. And he's nervous to come. Well, I would be too. Do you know anything about Amber? Hey, Dimitri, Google. Okay. Now, the show ends and Angie passes away. But right before she passes away, they're able to tell Angie about her, they raised enough money to pay off the house, which is amazing, to be honest. I remember when they were doing that and I was just like, that is such a sweet like thing to do for her. And, you know, whatever, like, even though sometimes Angie was very like hard on Mackenzie, it was very clear that she loved her daughter very much and wanted the best for her children. And the fact that her kids were able to give her that, like, Angie was so pleased and was like so happy. And it was like, you know how sometimes they say that like people wait for like certain things to happen before they actually go, like they will wait for someone to show up, or they will like wait for someone to say goodbye. Like with my grandmother, she was like on hospice and she was like at the end, but she wouldn't leave until my aunt Rita showed up. And then once everyone was there to say goodbye, then she passed away. So it's almost like they found out about the GoFundMe, and then all these people come to say goodbye to her, and then she's gone. So, you know, it's super emotional. They all sing Amazing Grace outside of Mackenzie's house. She breaks down. They do a sweet final prayer for Angie. And then they do this sweet sort of like montage of like all the things of like Angie running marathons, Angie, you know, when Mackenzie first finds out she's pregnant, how involved Angie was with Gannon's life, and really just like a quote from her, just love everyone and don't spend time hating anyone. Well put, Angie. And then there was a rest in peace, and she actually was about 50 years old. So young. So young. So rest in peace, Angie, and our sincere condolences once again to Mackenzie and her family. All right, you guys, that was the end of this episode. Next week, we will see Mackenzie dealing with the aftermath. Apparently, things are not going to go well with Josh. There is going to be some issues with Dimitri's going to come, and apparently Ryan and Macy and, you know, all that stuff. And Caitlin. Always something. Oh, Caitlin, and something to do with her friend Ashley that's staying in her house. There's going to be some issues. All right, you guys. So that's it for now. What are your thoughts? Obviously, super sad to say goodbye to Angie. And then obviously, what are your thoughts about Amber already having another guy and literally bringing another guy into her home for 3 months that she's never met? Literally. Who does that? Wonder what Andrew thinks about this. I would love to know. All right, you guys. I will be back later with more. Bye.